think it's an interesting question because it's taught as if it is. You know, I think that there's a sense that when you go into architecture school and you're given a task, you're left to think about that on your own, as if, you know, there's no other care in the world and you're the only person that could solve that problem or have the decision-making process on your own. And I think that, you know, it would be such a mistake for architecture or anything to be an autonomous process. I feel like human beings are not designed to be autonomous. I don't think anything that we produce can be autonomous, and I think it would be a misunderstanding of architecture to imagine that it could be autonomous. I think that on the whole, and this is something probably said over and over and over again, but there is the discipline of architecture is enacted by entities that are not architects on the whole, right? Maybe to a degree of 99 point something %. And I feel that the professional practice is striving to understand their role, but they fail to incorporate the effects of like non-architectural architecture or architecture design without architects. And so there's a whole realm of built environment that doesn't belong to the world of professional practice, but that could be better understood if, let's say, pedagogical systems for training planners or systems for training architects were much more engaging in other kind of influential realms and clients and so on. So I feel like I trained as an architect and became a writer and a curator, but I think that, you know, I didn't know necessarily that was an option, but I feel like architecture is such an interesting discipline to learn about that it could be like a first year for almost anybody dealing with the built environment, like civil engineers or planners. And in London, in architecture schools in London, they're very separate disciplines because architecture is understood to belong to the world of theory rather than the world of practice. I think that there is, in a way, a limit to the role of academia, you know, and I think that would also be good to understand that in a way that everybody, and particularly architects, seem to have this sort of megalomania approach as if we should have the answers within our discipline to all of the problems involving the built environment. And actually, you know, there's a kind of part of that where it's like, why don't you stay in your lane and just deal with academia, and like maybe there should be other bodies that deal with some other things. It's a bit of, you know, just to say that it's one way you could look at it is that actually it's not the responsibility of academia to deal with that. We can write about it and think about it and do our best there, but stay in the world of what we're good at and then let others provide access to that material, have more outreach to the community in that sense, but really be disciplined and be good and be serious about the work of being an academic, not overreach into the role of planning if that is somebody else's, if that's where the action is. You know what I mean? I feel like that's one way of looking at it. I would say that it is in a bit of a crisis moment. I don't know, you know, when it was, let's say when I was writing, I used to write for a magazine called Icon, and like honestly, every week we would be like, a phone call would fly to this country, there's been an amazing new building, fly to that country, amazing new building, fly here before the crash. In 2008, we would be on a plane, there'll be a new museum building, a new theatre building. Like, there was incredible output in the sort of first 10 years of the 21st century. The Icon building, all of that kind of Frank Gehry inspired city placemaking that was centering around a building of interest, so that cities and culture were built around the idea that there was an amazing building. And I don't know whether that was also a kind of crisis moment anyway. You know, we're dealing with a situation where nobody wants that, we don't have the money to do that, it doesn't really have a great economic strategy behind it, it's not regenerating things. So I think that we're in a leveling out moment, you know, after that sort of Icon building and back into sort of dealing with planning and dealing with like architectural issues such as like major population growth in all over the world and nowhere to put people.